I started meditating about 30 years ago. I learned my first meditation techniques from my first martial arts teacher. So the single-pointed mind meditation technique is a very powerful concentration technique for meditation. And it involves concentrating on particular chakras. And the chakras are energy centers in our energy body. Not only do you develop concentration and the ability to hold your mind still, once you become adept at this particular meditation technique on the chakras, you can raise the Kundalini energy. What is holding us back from losing ourselves? We tend to cling so tightly. We tend to cling to and grasp onto things, feelings, emotions, the known parts of ourselves. We tend to become attached very easily to comforts. Why that is, I can't give you that answer, but I do know a way to slowly loosen the grip. And it's just that. It's literally letting go and slowly allowing for yourself to settle, for peace to come. Peace is something, and stillness is something that is already existing. And it's just that we are so tightly clinging to our emotions, to our bodies, to our senses. And this is the first thing that we notice when we attempt to relax, when we attempt to become still, when we attempt to meditate, is we notice in the areas where we are attached, where we are clinging, where we are grasping and holding on. And it's that thing, and it just seems so important, and we try to hold on to it, and then it just falls through our fingers, and then we feel the sense of loss, and we feel the sense of whatever. And all of this is this cycle of something that's just not real. It's like when we wake up from sleep and we have this dream. And this dream seems so real and so important. And with the best of our ability, we try to remember that dream. And for some reason, we just can't. We just, oh, I know it's on the tip of my mind. It's this seeking that's causing all the suffering. It's seeking for anything. You know, I believe it's called the Ouroboros. It's where the Ouroboros, however you pronounce it, where it's the snake, and the snake is eating its own tail. Or I like to use the analogy of the dog chasing its own tail. It's a great analogy for human beings seeking happiness, and we seek, and we seek, and we look, and it's got to be here. It's got to be here. No, it's got to be here. It's got to be somewhere. I could just uncover it. I can find it. And part of what meditation is a process is of letting go of that seeking within the meditation itself. Within the meditation itself, the process of surrender, of just letting go of that part of ourselves that wants to grasp, that part of ourselves that wants to hold on to something. Letting go of that. This is something that through practice, through training, we can become better at. We can become better at holding on loosely. Hold on loosely, but don't let it go. And what we notice that we're holding on to so tightly is our bodies, is our identities, our thoughts of who we are, our thoughts of what we've done. And we tend to keep these, we tend to keep this in a very safe place because we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose ourselves. We don't want to lose control. And these things that we keep are like weights, and they hold us down. They keep us locked into our lower dimensional selves. And if we seek higher dimensional experiences, if we seek to go beyond the attachments, then we have to let go of all the baggage. We have to let go of the weights so that we can rise. We can rise up like a hot air balloon. Has to let go of the sandbags. And only when it lets go of that weight, it can rise. So, all the attachments we have are like weights. All the habits we have are like weights. And little by little, in our meditation practice, we seek to let go of holding on to this heavy body. Because our awareness wants to be free, but it just has a tendency to be stuck in the places that we use the most, which are our senses. The 5 senses, especially our eyes, ears. Our senses are very locked up. When we close our eyes, try it right now. Close your eyes. And I can guarantee you that you're probably still looking through your eyes, even though your eyelids are closed. Your attention wants to be so forced up in those eyeballs. It's almost bulging the eyeballs out. So what we need to do is slowly detach from the eyeballs and kind of just gradually, in a loving manner, remove our attachment to our senses. And by doing this process over and over and over again in meditation, we begin to live a life that is not attached to the senses. Now, I'm a firm believer in being very grounded in the body, as a practitioner of martial arts all my life, as someone who is a big avid weight trainer, believing in strength and muscle. I think it's important to develop a good grounded sense of physicality, to be grounded. Obviously, if you're not grounded, if you're not in the moment, then in martial arts or in weightlifting, you're not going to be very successful. So I believe in balance. We have to have a balance of our approach. If we ignore the body becomes weak. The body is not efficient. The same process that we use in meditation, or I should say the same process that we use in overcoming limitations in physical exercise and martial arts and weightlifting, whatever you like, yoga, dance, whatever your physical sport is, this teaches us a great lesson. Perhaps it's an endurance sport like cycling, biking, running, jogging. and you're somebody who takes it very seriously, and endurance is a exercise of how far you can push it, how far you can take something beyond your limitations. And martial arts is a great example of this, because every time that we overcome a challenge, whether it be the ability to perform a certain move or hold a certain stance for a long period of time, whether it be strength related, flexibility related, technique related, or just the discipline of showing up each and every time to train on a consistent basis. Every time we overcome a challenge, we get stronger. We can translate that ability to our meditation. Meditation is all about overcoming challenges. It's about overcoming plateaus in its higher level. In the beginning, we're just concerned about meditating regularly. We're just concerned about being consistent with our practice. So in order to achieve consistent practice, recommendation number 1 is to find out why. Why are we meditating? If your why is not powerful enough, then chances are it's not going to motivate you to be consistent. So, yes, we need to find a time, preferably in the morning, is what I recommend, to meditate. To have a dedicated time, whether it be 10, 15 minutes if you're a beginner, or 20, 25, 30, 45 minutes if you're more experienced. Whatever time frame you choose, and if you create a routine and stick to that schedule, half the battle is already won. But your why has to be significant enough, powerful enough to keep you coming back each day. And your why has to be something that's personal to you. Not a classic definition of why I meditate. Well, I meditate because whatever reason I read on the internet, it's good to meditate. Or I heard that this is good, so I'm going to try it. Chances are that's just not going to be powerful enough to keep you motivated. You have to make the why very personal. And that can be anything. But it's got to be strong enough to keep you coming back. So you have our number 1 reason, our number 1 motivating force is our why. Why do we meditate? The second part is the commitment. So once we've established the why, and then we schedule the meditation in our morning routine, I like to get up. I like to eat breakfast. If I tried to meditate immediately in the morning without doing anything, I would be too caught up in the sleep realm. My brain is just not awake. My attention is not focused. Now, sure, I could break through and push through, but I'm a firm believer in getting up, having some breakfast, whatever you like to eat, as long as it's not too heavy, as long as it's not too greasy to where it distracts you. The food that you eat is very important. The food that you eat should be one of course, healthy, good food. But as a meditator, it's important to choose the right type of foods that will not be distracting, that will not make you bloated, that will not keep your stomach feeling greasy or irritated. So be careful what you eat, but definitely eat a little bit of something. Some people like fruit in the morning, and that's fine. Me being a bodybuilder, I have to have my protein shake and my oatmeal, and then I have a cup of coffee. Now that may sound like a big meal to you, but for me, it's just an average small meal. Now you don't want to become too full, but you don't want to eat just too little to where you're still hungry. You want to make sure that you're satisfied. Because what we seek to do is eliminate distractions so that our meditation practice is a time of concentrated training and effort with the least amount of distractions possible. And this is going to yield the optimum opportunity for you to be successful in your meditation. So we want to have a place where we meditate each day. For me, you've all seen me here in the same spot every day. I've got my meditation chair, which I've been meditating in ever since I can remember. And so I like meditating in a chair as opposed to sitting on the ground. Now, if you're someone who's flexible and can sit on the ground comfortably for a long period of time in a cross-legged or lotus position, that's great. And whatever works for you, whatever allows you to be most comfortable for your meditation practice. So, along with breakfast, after I eat, I like to have a cup of coffee. Now, for some of you, that may sound counterproductive to meditation. And it can be. It depends on how your tolerance to caffeine is. If you're someone who has a very low tolerance to caffeine, then perhaps having just a cup of green tea. There's usually only about 50 milligrams of caffeine in green tea, which is a small amount. It's enough to wake you up. It's very important to become awake and alert before you meditate so that you'll have the best experience. It's like if you went to work and you weren't alert and you weren't awake, you're not going to have a very productive time at work if you're kind of half asleep and your brain is just in a brain fog and you haven't quite woken up. So I eat breakfast, I have my cup of coffee, and I like a good strong cup of coffee. I have a high tolerance to caffeine. Now, after I do that, I take a shower. I think that's probably the number one most important thing. Let's say you had to skip breakfast. Let's say you had to skip coffee. But the one thing that you don't want to skip is taking that morning shower. And the reason for this is because the water is a very good way to purify and wash away any energetic residue that we might have picked up during sleep. When we're sleeping, we're very sensitive to energies. You know, maybe you had a bad dream. And oftentimes we can't always control where our subconscious will take us. Now, of course, if you meditate for a long period of time, and you've been meditating for years, you know, truth be told, your dream plane should actually improve. You should actually have more positive dreams, less weird, nightmarish dreams. But occasionally we have any kind of dreams, and you never know what it might be. But we wake up and we feel groggy, we feel tired, we feel like there's just some part of us that hasn't become awake yet. Well, a shower will purify your energy body, which is why it's most important. Of course, it washes your physical body. But the purification of your energy body, of your emotional body, is very important before we meditate. So it's a good idea to take a shower before you meditate, absolutely. And this will get you ready. So then we sit down to meditate, and we have our meditation area, and half the battle is done. Now, what do you do when you meditate? So, there's so many different techniques out there. I'm a big believer and proponent of beginning with concentration exercises. Because, again, when we meditate, we seek to remove as many distractions as we possibly can, which is why it's important to not eat too much, and why it's important to not drink too much coffee, because then we can get a little too full or too jittery. So, similarly, when we sit down to meditate, what's the next biggest distractor? Well, it's typically the wandering mind, the active mind, the overactive mind. And depending on what you did in the morning, let's say you get up and you're like me, and you immediately like to check your phone. You immediately like to flip through Facebook. You know, my business is advertised through Facebook, so I post certain ads, etc. And of course, I can't resist scrolling through and seeing what's the latest news. And all of that information begins to be imprinted and downloaded into my mind. Or perhaps there are interactions that you have prior to meditation with other members of your family, or, you know, you get some disturbing news, or whatever it might be. Your mind is generally beginning to become active. So when we sit down to meditate, that's the first thing we notice. We notice that our mind is active, or there's a lot of tension, or there's a lot of energetic turmoil. Or perhaps you're in a very peaceful state of mind, and your mind is already clear, and there's very little that you need to get through in terms of distractions. So this is a good thing. But in order to break through all of those mental distractions, to get past all of that mental activity, I recommend concentration exercises. So what we have are various ways to still the mind through concentration. I utilize a number of single-pointed mind concentration exercises within my meditation practice. And I teach various kinds of single-pointed mind techniques within my meditation coaching program. So I developed this step-by-step program, and it's not as if I created these techniques. These techniques were given to me and taught to me by my meditation teacher many, many years ago. And they involve concentration on chakras. And when we concentrate on the chakras, a little bit about the chakras. Chakras are energy centers in our energy body. Hey Nanda, good to have you on, my friend. Thank you for joining us. So, when we focus on the chakras, what you want to do is you want to feel the energy. So this develops an aspect of ourself that perhaps we haven't developed yet. It's like developing a muscle, the ability to feel, the ability to sense energy on an energy level is what I call the sixth sense. You know, we've got 5 senses. We've got sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch. But did you know that we have many more senses? And to bridge into our higher senses, the ability to feel is the way we do that. The ability to train, the ability to get better at feeling energy, at sensing energy, is a bridge to telepathy, psychic abilities, more clairvoyance, and becoming more adept at our intuition and our intuitive capabilities. So what this does is it brings us out of our 5 senses and into a higher dimensional plane just by feeling the energy around the chakras. So we do this in an ascending manner. So let me go over the 5 steps program, the 5 steps to stillness technique, and then we'll get right into it. So we begin by first using our visual sense. Our eyes are our dominant sense, and we're very good at looking at things. So step 1 involves a process of gazing. I like to use a yantra, and I've made these available at the top of the group. If you go up to the announcements section, you can download and print out one of these yantras. And the way that we use them is to simply gaze with a single pointed visual focus and concentrate on that central dot with a steady stream of visual awareness, of visual attention. We use our eyes and we simply hold our gaze at that dot. And what this does is it warms up our concentration ability. It warms up our single-pointed mind ability. So step 1, we focus on the yantra. And by doing this, we are beginning the process of moving towards stillness. We're bridging from, let's say, wherever your mind state is. Perhaps you have an active mind. And what we're doing is we're training our concentration with our eyes on a physical visual object. So it's very easy to do for most people. Okay, so then we move on to step 2. We warmed up our concentration and we've gotten used to holding our attention on a single point. Then we take that ability that we just developed, that we just warmed up, and we move it to the chakras. I like to begin with the navel chakra, then move up to the heart chakra, and finish off with the third eye chakra. These 3 main meridians are power, love, and wisdom. Now, each chakra, there are 7 primary chakras that we all have heard of before, but these 3, the navel, heart, and third eye, generally take care of business. Because what we're actually doing is when we focus on a chakra, we are tuning into another dimension. Our energy body, our subtle physical body, is actually in the astral dimension, also known as the 4th dimension. Our physical body is in the 3rd dimension, and it has a certain frequency. It's appears to be solid through our senses. But when we focus on our energy body, we have to use our ability to feel in order to interact with it. So this ability to feel is our vehicle, is our way to connect with higher dimensional planes. So this is a lost art for a lot of people because most people are not familiar with feeling in this way. We've become so numb. We've become so tuned into the physical, and our attention has become so attached to our senses that when we attempt to feel, well, guess what happens? Your attention immediately gets drawn right back to its habitual place and where it's normally locked up, which is our senses. And this is why at the beginning of the video, when we close our eyes, generally most people are still stuck within their visual sense or within their frontal lobe, meaning their attention is still kind of locked up right here. And this is just because this is where our attention is normally throughout the day. Again, we're creatures of habit. We become what we do. We become what we think. And so through this practice, we're becoming much more, or I should say we are uncovering much more of who and what we really are, our multidimensional selves. And this is the process of becoming greater human beings. Greater in the sense of uncovering our greater nature, our full nature. Most of us are just focused on the physical body, and this is obviously a limitation. Nothing wrong with the physical, but to know that there are more levels of awareness, that there are more aspects to ourself, will uncover many different latent abilities that perhaps we didn't know about. So, when we focus on the chakras, what we're doing is we're feeling the energy. And what happens is where you focus, the energy will follow. And when the energy begins to awaken, the chakra opens up like a flower. For most people, the chakras lie dormant in a latent state. And kind of like a rosebud or a bud of a flower, they're not quite open. Or maybe they are open. It depends on your life. It depends on your conditioning. It depends on your experience, what kind of family you grew up in, what you were exposed to. Many of us could have a lot of damage to our subtle physical body, which is a product of being around an aggressive or violent environment when we were growing up. And we tend to block and shield and contract and close up so that we don't feel these negative or violent or angry emotions. Our energy body has become very numb. But the good news is that when you focus on it and when you feel it, you are actually healing it through the process of merely placing our attention and tuning into our energy body. You'll begin a process of clearing. You'll begin the process of reinvigorating. And this is done through the release of energy. There's a latent force or energy called the Kundalini energy. And the Kundalini lies dormant or latent, meaning it lies at rest in the base or root chakra. And that's the one at the base of our spine. So when we begin to focus on the navel chakra, the Kundalini will actually rise up. If we can focus well enough, if we can focus on with a single point, if we can hold our concentration still and feel that spot, the chakra begins to open and the Kundalini may rise up to that point. Now this may or may not happen within your first or second session, but after some time, once you get the ability to become still, this force will rise up. And this Kundalini energy is very powerful. It's the energy of transformation, but it's also the energy of evolution, spiritual evolution. And as we ascend up the chakra as we move up to higher chakras, the Kundalini energy will actually follow up to the point where we're concentrating. And then, boom, up to the head. So we focus first on the navel chakra in step 2. And then in step 3, we move to the heart chakra. And then in step 4, we move to the third eye chakra. Now what this is doing is, as the Kundalini rises, it's raising our frequency. It's invigorating our energy body. Our whole subtle physical body becomes awake, alive, and it repairs and heals itself if there was any damage. But it also strengthens our psychic immunity and raises our frequency so that we actually walk around with this new perception, with this new feeling over time. So this particular technique is a very all-encompassing technique. Not only do we work on holding our focus and disciplining our mind with a single point, but by doing that, by focusing on our energy body, we are reinvigorating, reawakening, fortifying, strengthening our subtle physical body, which has dramatic impact on our overall health, even of the physical body. When the energy body, emotional body is healthy, generally our physical body will be healthy. When the energy body is in a state of disrepair, when it's in a state of damage, generally this can have an impact on our physical body. Or if we tend to hold on to negative or damaging emotions like anger, hate, then this can affect not only the physical body, not only the energy body, but it can eventually affect the physical body. So the energy that we hold is very important. This is why when we focus on chakras, and especially the heart chakra, we release a certain frequency of energy at the heart chakra that is love. We call it love. It's the feeling of bliss. It's the feeling of ecstasy. It's the feeling of joy. It's the true meaning and the true feeling of happiness. And this feeling can literally suffuse and transmit over the entire energy body. And this is a great way to improve your psychic immunity, meaning if we are walking around with a energy body that is full of love, there's not much that can penetrate that. There's not much negativity, aggression, or anger that can get through that. It's literally like a psychic force field, and we just repel negativity. And this is also due to the fact that the frequency, the literal frequency, is increasing. So if you have a very low frequency energy body, you're perceiving on lower frequency bandwidths, lower dimensions. If you have a very high frequency, then you're perceiving on very high frequencies, higher dimensions, higher consciousness. And higher frequencies, higher consciousness, higher dimensions are akin to light. And you may actually begin to see light when we focus on the third eye. The Kundalini energy rises up into the head, and you may actually begin to see light. Then we move into the fifth step of this sequence of the 5 steps to stillness. And in the 5th step, we're actually entering into a state of meditation. We're moving beyond concentration. In the prior 4 steps, we're focusing on single-pointed concentration. We're concentrating on the chakras by feeling them and holding our attention there to the best of our ability. Again, this develops a great, sharp mind, and it also clears out and trains the mind to not be such a wandering mess all the time. Imagine if you had the ability to focus and to move your attention, when you're not meditating. You move your attention to something and it's just perfectly clear. There's a perfect absorption of information. This can be a very efficient way to use the mind. We live in a world that is very, that produces a lot of ADD. And this is simply due to the habit. We're flipping through our phones constantly. We're not really focused on one thing. We're focused on so many things. There's so many things that distract us that our minds become like distracted little kids. And our mind has the tendency to have a difficult time to sit still, just like a little kid sometimes does. So what we're doing is we're training the mind to sit still, to hold still, to rest perfectly still on a single point. And this has enormous benefits for your active mind, for when you're working, for when you're communicating, for when you're receiving new information or delivering information, work, play, relationships, no matter what. So we move into the fifth step. In that fifth step, we begin to meditate. And there's simple instructions for this fifth step. The fifth step is simply to surrender, to let go. You'll notice when you don't focus and concentrate that there will still be tendencies for your attention to be locked up. There will still be tendencies for your awareness, your attention to wander, to move. And when you notice that, just simply be still and let go. Continue to dissolve. You might notice that there's energetic contractions still. You might notice that there's tension in your facial muscle. Just let that go, little by little. And in the process of letting go, this separate sense of self begins to dissolve into the ever-present stillness. It begins to dissolve and merge with consciousness, which is why the footnote of this technique is from concentration to consciousness. We take our ability to concentrate and hone our minds to a fine point. And then in the step 5, we let that go and we dissolve this separate sense of self into the greater self, which is eternal. Consciousness, light, whatever you want to call it, nirvana, whatever you want to call it, enlightenment. And when we merge with that, it's truly the essence of all things, including us, including who we are. And in that merging, there's a sense of the dissolving of the self. The true meaning of yoga is to join. The process of yoga, the esoteric process, means to join our finite selves with the divine self, the one. So when this process occurs, we might not be even aware that it's occurring, but it just happens one day. And then all of a sudden, you're back. And you realize that you've been away. And yet, the you that went away is not the same you that returns. It's a more evolved, it's a purified, it's a refreshed or reborn sense of self. And by doing this process continually, day after day, there are many different deaths and rebirths. And in Tibetan Buddhism, this is known as the Tibetan rebirth process. If we die many times within this one lifetime, well, we'll have gone through many different selves, and each self evolves. That when we return back to the self, back to the sense of separate self, back to our bodies, there's a sense that we're new. There's a sense that there's a newness and a new perception dawns. And this process is the process of evolution over time, over many, many, many practicing sessions of meditation over many, many, many lifetimes. Eventually, we reach a point of full liberation, enlightenment, Buddhahood. And so let's get started with the meditation. And we'll pull up some music here. Okay. Alright. I don't know why my thing is... Okay, where's all my music? Give me just 1 second, my friends. Okay. Alright. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Now let me connect it to my Bluetooth. Normally I like to meditate to silence, and I use the Insight Timer app to program this particular type of meditation, where a little bell will go off every so often to prompt me to go to the next step within the 5 steps to stillness. Why does it take 5 steps? Well, because we're coming from such an active mind. The activity needs to settle down before we can really move into a meditative state. Now, obviously, as we become more adept at meditation, this process can become more streamlined, quicker. But I think taking the time to gradually move through each step has its own benefit. You could literally just focus on the yantra for 5 minutes, and that would be a really good, quick way to kind of still the mind if you only had 5 minutes to sit. But going through the entire process, we are actually invigorating the energy body, opening the chakras, raising the kundalini, and this has extraordinary benefits, because without power, without energy, without the raising of our frequency, none of the magic happens, none of the transformation happens. Yes, there is a transformation when we discipline the mind, in that we train our mind to become more focused, less scattered, and then this ability, this new type of mind, will carry over into our daily activities. Makes for a much more efficient mind. And when we have a more efficient mind, well, the mind is a tool that we use, whether we're working, whether we're playing, whether we're creating. And obviously, if your mind is more efficient, if it's less caught up in distractions, then it can get the job done better and more efficiently. So yes, there's that. But then there's also what happens when we open up our energy body. This is also a process that will evolve and change over time, meaning we walk around with chakras that are open. We walk around with an energy body that is awake. And this can translate into a feeling of bliss. It can translate into new perceptual abilities that carry over beyond just the meditation. So let's get to the meditation, shall we? Follow along if this is your first time joining me. We're about to do the 5 steps to stillness. If you've done this before, you know what to do. I'll still walk you through each step. So let's begin. Whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, make sure you keep a good, comfortable posture. Back straight. Take a big deep breath. In step 1, we begin by gazing at the yantra. If you don't have a yantra yet printed out, you can just listen to the music for step 1 during this video, or gaze at any object before you. The important thing is that you focus on that object with an unwavering, steady stream of attention. So when I focus on the yantra, I want to keep my eyes, my visual focus fixed on that central dot. When thoughts come in and out of the mind, or distractions, or my mind wanders, simply bring back all your full attention to that central dot, or whatever object you're gazing at. Breathe naturally throughout the entire meditation. Now that we've warmed up our concentration, move into step 2. Close the eyes gently. Take the fingertip and place it about an inch or 2 below the belly button and gently press into that spot. This is the area around your navel chakra. Feel the gentle pressure of the fingertip as it presses into that spot, and hold your attention on feeling that gentle pressure. This gives your attention or your awareness the place to go to, the area in which to feel. Once you've locked on with your attention on feeling that spot, you can remove your finger and continue to hold your awareness, hold your attention on feeling that spot around the navel chakra. Try to feel the energy. Relax, but keep a good posture and breathe naturally. Focus only on the chakra, on the feeling at the navel. When your mind wanders, just bring it right back toward feeling and try to hold it steady, continuously, undistractedly on feeling the navel chakra. Now move your attention up to your heart chakra. Place the fingertips in the center of the chest and press gently. Feel the gentle pressure of the fingertip in the center of the chest. Try to relax any physical or energy tension that you might be feeling. around this area. Once your attention or awareness has locked on to this area, you can remove the fingers and continue to feel the spot. Try to feel loving energy around the heart chakra area. Breathe naturally. Now move your attention up to your third eye. Place the fingertip between the eyebrow and slightly above. from the center of the forehead. Press gently and feel that spot. Bring your full attention, your full awareness to that spot and hold steady. Once you've locked on to that spot, you can remove the finger and continue to hold your awareness on feeling that third eye chakra. Hold steady. When thoughts come or distractions happen, bring your mind, bring your awareness back to the third eye chakra and hold still. Relax the forehead. Relax the tension. Hold steady on the feeling, the energy. Now it's time to surrender. Let go of all concentration, of all focus. Release and relax any physical or energetic tension you might feel in your body, in your energy, in your mind. Let it all go. Maintain a good posture and be perfectly still. And slowly open your eyes and return back to your body. Take a big deep breath. And just observe around you. Observe the newness, the change that may have taken place. It's important not to rush right back into any normal activity right away, but just sort of feel the new perception that has dawned. It may be a sense of calm, it may be a sense of peace, maybe a sense of relief, a sense of stillness. Perhaps you have a feeling of bliss. And so the idea now is, through our mindfulness practice, we maintain this higher awareness, this calm, this higher consciousness throughout the day. Throughout our daily activities and tasks, we remain in the moment, present, engaged in whatever task or activities that we're doing, be it work, play, creative pursuits, interactions with others. We can remain in a state of balance, in a state of equilibrium, in a state of perfection. And by meditating each day, we can remember and regain this sense of clarity. And over time, we gain a sense of freedom. And that's the ultimate bliss. So thank you, my friends, for joining me on this journey within these 30 days. This has been my gift to the group and to any of you who are interested in meditation during these times. And I hope it's given you some levity. I hope it's given you some clarity. I hope you enjoyed the meditations. And shortly, I'll be announcing my group coaching training program, which will be a continuation of the meditations in a private group coaching setting. So look for that. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to message me or just drop a link, drop a comment down below in the video. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions regarding meditation, mindfulness, chakras, kundalini, enlightenment, liberation. You know, where are we going with all this meditation stuff? Okay, my friends, thank you so much. Much love to you, and we'll see you around, okay? Take care.